Welcome to the Daily Planetary Allegory. Today's story is Lua's Last Sacrament, the daughters of the Misbegotten Power. Through the secret knowledge of Penemu, a watcher who saw everything. The stars decree, the covenant demands, in whispers we govern, through the elements we obscure, in static we command, in nightmares we pursue. We are earth and air, we are fire and water, we are the remembered, we are the returned, we are the whispers, in silence we thrive. With the Saturn conjunct Neptune, we have the Circle of Broken Rights. Now, the Circle of Broken Rights would explore the perverse consequences of attempting to materialize abstract, ill-conceived spiritual ideas. This scenario merges the strict karmic and material energies of Saturn with the formless, idealistic, and deceptive nature of Neptune, all set within the ninth house of higher beliefs, philosophy, and truth. Now, in a standard astrological reading, this conjunction would concern the testing of one's faith or the grounding of lofty spiritual concepts. But through the lens of a failed black magic ritual, these energies twist into something destructive and self-defeating. Now, the structure of this ritual is Saturn rules boundaries, discipline and structure and consequences. In this dark interpretation, it represents the coven's rigid and ultimately flawed execution of their magical acts. With the failed structure, the coven attempts to create a sacred circle, a traditional protective space in ritual magic. However, the Saturn-Neptune energy ensures that the structure is corrupted or has a fatal flaw. The lines are not drawn correctly, the words are not sealed, or the focus is not pure within one or more participants, altering their mentality, essentially creating the broken rights. Now, with the karmic backlash, the coven's misguided intent to manipulate reality results in a harsh, inescapable payback. The laws they tried to bend end up bending them, leading them eventually to a cold reality. Now, Saturn here forces an unpleasant confrontation with the consequences of their actions. The coven cannot escape the material, tangible devastation caused by their magic. With Neptune here, this brings in the delusion of their vision. Now, Neptune in this context, its influence represents the initial and corrupted impetus for the black magic used. With the tainted higher purpose, now a healthy Saturn-Neptune could help manifest spiritual dreams, but in this interpretation and aspecting, the coven's spiritual ambition is based on a fundamental falsehood. They are misled by what they think is a higher spiritual calling, but which is in fact an illusion. Now, this is where beings like Dandelion bring about the disillusion of the spirit. Neptune's dissolving energy combined with Saturn's hard reality causes the coven's spiritual foundations to crumble within. Their faith is shattered, replaced by disillusionment and cynicism. Given their vague intentions, the coven's magical aims are likely vague, based on grand sweeping desires rather than concrete specific goals. Now, this lack of clear intent, typical Neptunian trait, makes the ritual a failure of a foregone conclusion. With the ninth house, the ritual's settings and beliefs come into the picture. Now, the ninth house represents abstract thoughts, spiritual quests, and long-distance travel, but in a black magic context, it becomes twisted. We have sacrilege against the truth. This combination represents the ultimate perversion of seeking truth. The coven attempts to use a higher power for selfish or destructive ends, creating a profound spiritual failure, leading to an eventual failure of belief. Now, the ritual fails because the coven's core beliefs are corrupted. The magic is a direct reflection of hollow, misguided, or malevolent faith, not a true connection to higher power, with the inevitable manifesting being a destructive legacy. Now, in the ninth house specifically, in this context, their failure impacts not only themselves, but also their spiritual lineage, their blood, and their kin. Their broken rights are a black stain on their occult tradition passed down as a lesson in what not to do. The result of all this is the Circle of Broken Rights. Now, the confluence of these energies defines the coven's cursed existence with endless ritual. This coven is trapped in a feedback loop, continually repeating their failed rituals, Most likely Saturday gatherings where energy work is repeatedly attempted, to which all leads to failures, reversals, or upheavals, depending on the true raw power at the core of their target or intended delivery, if you will. The Saturnian drive for structure keeps them bound to the right, while the Neptunian delusion prevents them from acknowledging their failure, creating a quantum hollow magic. Their power, if any at this point, is not a force of creation, but a force of decay. It's like watching garbage rot on the side of the road. It's there, but not really. The magic they cast unravels and corrupts everything, absolutely everything around them and everything it touches, including themselves, rendering their will powerless and delivering an unyielding consequence. Now, the coven does not get a chance to fix their mistake once the window of opportunity is closed to rectify the wrongdoing. The Saturnian karma is absolute and unforgiving, forcing them to live with the unceasing, dissolving fallout of their broken spiritual attempts, bound by the endless energies of gods and goddesses, alike of Anubis, Osiris, Set, Morana, Mitakakahadal, Mixlaptakuhudi, Hades, Hell, Libitina for the false funerals and unfilled coffins, Morta for the children that have been involved, the Fates, the Morrigan, Odin, Erishkragau, Nurgle, Mott, Kalima, Santa Muerte, Shinigami, Yama, and finally, Baron Samedi. Now, this is a whole lot of misused black magic, death rituals, and forbidden attempts to siphon who were, who are these people in the story attempting to siphon from? A reincarnated god? Damn. To the next aspect. This is the Saturn trine Lilith as the Goetia dust. Now, the Goetia of dust represents the methodical decay of the subconscious mind. Instead of a catastrophic and obvious failure, the trine suggests a seemingly effortless, yet insidious and deeply hidden process of self-destruction that corrupts not only the ritual from within, but the person performing the ritual itself. You got to remember that this scope is through the lens of a coven, the misuse of black magic, and reversals. Now, the flawed discipline here. Saturn, the planet of structure, discipline, and karma, provides a foundation for the failed spell. A trine in this dark context means that the coven's discipline is not broken, but subtly and fundamentally corrupted, allowing the decay to proceed unchecked and even with a sense of eerie ease, which allows the dust of karma to collect. Instead of a karmic reckoning, Saturn delivers a slow, grinding decay. This is not a thunderous punishment. The only thunder going on is the roar on the G-board when them secrets are circulating. It's like a super secret, again, across the server, roaring across the dark web. But a spiritual erosion that leaves the coven with nothing but dust. Baron Samedi specifically says, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The structure of their magic is sound enough to hold, but what it holds is nothing but rot. This being a slow process of a method of ruin. Now, Saturn's discipline energies provides the coven with a methodical approach to their own downfall. They meticulously perform their rites, believing in the process, but the very foundation is built on a falsehood, ensuring the desired outcome is never achieved. The ritual structure is the tool for their own failure here. This is where the untamed core comes in through the energies of Lilith. Now, Lilith, in the 12th house, her energies are hidden, repressed, and unconscious. Now, the trine to Saturn implies the coven has an effortless yet deeply flawed connection to this raw, rebellious power. It's a fake connection, if you will, which is the foundation to their wild core corruption. Now, the Goetia of Dust is going to be a spell that taps into Lilith's dark energies, but does so from a place of spiritual weakness and shame. The coven may have believed they are harnessing Lilith's wild autonomy, but the 12th house setting means they are only accessing a tainted, disowned version of it. It's a pseudo-weak shadow side variation, if you will. Might as well call it Belith, not Lilith, because it's nowhere near her raw, sublime capacity. This weaker version taints the mind, causing an unconscious manipulation. Now, a coven member with this placement might be a master manipulator, effortlessly tapping into the subconscious fears of others to essentially achieve what they're seeking out to do. However, the trine to Saturn ensures this power is limited and ultimately self-defeating, turning their dark gifts quite literally against them. It's a total energetic reversal of years and years of collected energy where one appears to be victorious only to have the floor collapse from beneath their feet, shutting down entire groups who have failed to heed warnings that were provided in advance by true seers. With the 12th house, this is where we enter in the hidden consequences. This is the domain of the subconscious, hidden enemies, and self-undoing. Remember, the enemy of my enemy is my best friend and my ally. Now, the combination of Saturn and Lilith here ensures the coven's downfall is a secret internal process. It's like incepting a group and learning their way, making the participants completely oblivious to their impending doom and reckoning with little by little hidden spiritual damage hitting over time. Now, the failure of their magic is not obvious. Actually, it almost appears to work from their perspective, but in fact it works on a subconscious level, causing unseen damage to the coven's spirit and their very soul. They might continue to believe their spells are effective, all while their spiritual foundation quite literally disintegrates. This we bid the good word to thee as the dust of denial. The coven is likely to be in denial about their failure. They cling to their form of the rituals through Saturn, while their spiritual substance, through Lilith, has turned to dust, leaving them completely empty. Now, the Goetia of dust refers not just to the outcome of the spell, but to the coven's own internal hollowness, allowing for enemies of enemies to form alliances and create new powerful hidden enemies. In a political context, this would be compared to China funding radical leftist agendas, hell-bent on destroying family morality, the Constitution, and being conducive to productive living, where the United States would silently be holding a blanket on a secret weapon hidden in plain sight, like God hides his strongest warriors in plain sight, keeping them going for the special operation to locate people, inciting the fabrics of the nation in various sectors, creating a level of corruption to destructive for sustained existence, which might take place in the 12th house, which governs hidden enemies. It's like silent supporters, and we love our silent supporters, by the way, ensuring that the one they're supporting is in the right position to go subatomic when the quantum levels are permitting. This is when we can go full supernova, completely bypass the neutrino star process and go straight to a black hole. In this case, the coven's greatest enemy is going to be themselves and their ego, obviously. The very rituals they perform become the agent of their own subtle destruction, creating an endless hidden feedback loop of absolute failure. With Saturn in Pisces, we have the unraveling knot. Now, the unraveling knot against God illustrates the self-destructive nature of using a spiritual path for destructive ends. In this context, the witches attempt to bind divine order with their own flawed will, but the cosmic current of Pisces ultimately dissolves their structure, causing the unholy knot to unravel with devastating consequences for them alone. Now, the flawed authority in this context is the coven's misguided attempt to impose their will upon the divine, which after much patience, God quite literally interprets as a mockery of divine law. The coven attempts to create a sacred binding knot, a symbol often used for eternal connection, but their hubris and their corrupt intent makes the knot inherently flawed. They believe they can impose a new order, but they only create a false idol of their own power. And for this, we see the limitation through boundless manifest. Saturn's presence in Pisces, a sign of boundlessness, is the key to their failure. While Saturn typically enforces boundaries in Pisces and those embodying the marine kingdom's authority, those boundaries are watery, permeable, and ultimately dissolve. The coven's rigidly constructed spell has no real power to hold in the limitless spiritual realm of Pisces. Most certainly holds no dominion against metaphysical beings operating multi- and interdimensionally, tapped into the morphogenic field with unquantifiable quantum power and potential. The authority of karma here, Saturn, is also the great arbiter of karma. Its power ensures that the coven's actions have consequences in divine timing, usually long enough to see all misdeeds on their grander scale, where every big fish and little fish is implicated, seen, and or notated. Instead of binding the divine, their ritual binds only themselves to a cycle of spiritual decay and reckoning. This is where the boundless and the dissolving enters. Pisces provides the metaphysical field for the ritual, ultimately overwhelming the coven's very limited efforts with the spiritual current, being the natural electricity that is in every field of existence that ever is, will be, and was on a quantum space that was laid out by the divine. In the same way that a storm at sea can break even the strongest ship, the spiritual waters of Pisces overpower the coven's rigid magical framework. Now, the divine flow, unconcerned with the witch's selfish will, dissolves their structure as though it were made of sand. And just like sand through the hourglass, those are the days of our lives. And yes, I did just quote a soap opera with this inevitable unraveling. Now, a magical knot is meant to be permanent. But because the coven's knot is a sacrilege, the Piscean energy of forgiveness and ultimate union with the divine forces, it to unravel regardless. The undoing of their magic is a reflection of cosmic order reasserting itself. While this happens, we see the liberation of the collective and the culmination of collective consequence. The magic was intended to harm the divine, but because Pisces rules the collective, the harm is instead reabsorbed into the very web of creation the coven tried to attack, only powering up the target. It's kind of like eating a mushroom in Super Mario. The guy just gets bigger, stronger, faster, agile, smarter, more connected. It's like a lightning rod absorbing electricity. It's spiritual suicide. Now, the covenant's negative energy doesn't corrupt the divine. It pollutes their own spiritual well, contaminating their reality altogether. It's like that feeling of impending doom. You don't know what it is, and because you've been being slowly disconnected, you can't even see it coming. The result is going to be the unraveling knot here. The combined energy of Saturn and Pisces, perverted by the coven's intent, creates a ritual that destroys itself in a particularly gruesome spiritual way. Now, the spiritual dissolution comes as the coven does not experience a dramatic backlash. Instead, they find their beliefs dissolving, their magical practices losing meaning, and their collective spiritual energy dissipating into absolute nothingness, into the deepest parts of the abysmal plane, way past Malkuth, into a sub-level of the abyss that they probably never even heard of and wasn't aware of. Now, the magic they sought has become as fluid and formless as Pisces, and their ability to wield it disappears altogether. Bound to the consequences of their actions, the coven's attempt to manipulate the cosmos have only bound them more tightly to the consequence of their actions. Their initial ambition is replaced by a profound disillusionment and emptiness. They are trapped in a spiritual vacuum of their own making, unable to undo the cosmic knot that they themselves tied, leading them to the end of the dream. Now that living the dream is over, Pisces, being the sign of dreams and illusions, shatters all of these illusions. The ritual's failure means the dream of wielding power over the divine shatters completely, leaving behind only the cold, hard reality of Saturn's final lesson. It's like the cold of winter, and winter is coming. The final lesson is that some rules and some powers are not meant to be broken. The unraveling knot is the coven's inescapable reminder that their spiritual path was based on a fundamental and unholy lie, led by the devil himself, knowing it would lead to a spiritual disconnect entirely. Hopefully you found today's video entertaining. That's all I have. That's all the Saturn aspects. I'll see you in the next one.